The gym, a place usually full of muscular people. It's been a week since our protagonist started going there, and since then, he met a chubby employee. A really chubby one, actually. But putting that aside, he refocuses on his workout. Then, suddenly, the aforementioned employee shows up. She greets him and comments that he's still muscular as always. Her name is Shiina, and in response to her comment, he says that it's thanks to this great lat pull-down machine. She says that if anything happens with the equipment, he can call her and they'll fix it quickly. But Kataoka, whom I'll kindly call an airhead, was more focused on something else at that moment. Noticing this, Shiina says she might be wrong, but it seems like he's been staring at her a lot, and asks if he has something to complain about or say. Caught off guard, he initially says it's nothing, but Shiina insists, saying it's been a week since he joined, so to look at her that much, she's sure there must be a reason, and asks him to tell her. If this were real life, he'd already be in jail or viral on the internet as a pervert right now. Luckily, it's not. Continuing, she says that if it's something she can help with, she will. As an employee, it's her responsibility to listen to the customer. Given such freedom, Kataoka decides to speak, but warns it's just a small comment. Regarding her physique, he finds it a bit curious to see a gym employee who is chubby. But he immediately denies that she's chubby, which they both know is a lie. She then decides to explain the reason for this and says that, unlike normal employees, she admits she might be a little plump, which makes Kataoka ask if it's really just a little. She says she'll explain, but first wants to make it clear that she's not chubby. Shiina has worked there for a year, but 3 months ago, she also started working at a barbecue restaurant. That the food they serve there is devilishly delicious, and as a result, the amount of exercise she does isn't enough to burn the calories she eats. And unfortunately, some customers don't trust this gym when they notice her. However, even so, she's usually praised for her customer service, but anyway, she's not chubby. However, the most important thing is that he doesn't have any problems at the gym. But our GigaChad airhead says she doesn't need to be insecure about that, because chubby girls are the best in the world. She looks confused, but he says it's true, and that her physique might not be ideal for working at a gym, but speaking specifically about her, that Shiina has a body that looks like it was made by an artist who was hungry and needy at the same time. Powerful thighs that have more presence than many protagonists out there. A round but that defies the laws of physics, and a belly that looks like an emotional marshmallow, all in perfect harmony. We should all agree on all these basic points, but that's not even the part that catches his attention the most. It's her arms. I don't know about you, but I've never heard of a fetish for arms. For him, the way her torso pushes makes them look swollen, and he thinks the crease around her armpit is beautiful. He knows many might not share this feeling, but he'd still love for them to appreciate the charm of a chubby woman. And it doesn't stop there. He asks if she's ever seen Western paintings, and that in them many women depicted have chubby bodies, meaning even renowned artists love them. That this is a devotion that transcends throughout history. All this to arrive at a single point. Chubby girls are a work of art, and that's what makes Shiina a beautiful person. After listening to all this in absolute silence this whole time, Shiina finally opens her mouth to say that no one has ever told her these things, and that most of the time people bother her by saying how plump she is. But even so, she reinforces again that she's not chubby. Ignoring that, he just thanks her and says there's nothing better than having Shiina there to brighten his day. And that's what we want here, attacking protagonists. And so the day ends with him saying he hopes to get along well with her, while she clearly realizes he's not a good listener. The next day, there he was, watching Shiina again. Today it's been 8 days since he joined this gym. He can even thank himself for having done so, because Shiina is there. Talking to her, he explained that he recently moved to this area for work, so he quickly looked for a nearby gym and found this one, and that he's very happy with his choice. And the reason doesn't even need explaining. Suddenly, someone else appears asking for help because they didn't know how to use the machine. Shiina explains that the idea is to exercise your waist, but it does look a bit complicated at first, so she decides to demonstrate how to use it herself and asks the girl to pay attention. First, adjust the weight, then sit with a straight back, and then press your thighs well against the pad. After that, with elbows close to the body, start twisting your torso as much as you can. If the twist is too sudden at first, you'll likely hurt yourself. However, once you get used to it, your form improves. Just try it. I didn't expect this segment either. After finishing the explanation and demonstration, Shiina tells the girl she can go ahead and try. And glancing sideways, she noticed Kataoka was staring at her the whole time. Not that he was trying to hide it either. She walks over to him. Awkwardly, Shiina says if he keeps staring at her like that, she won't be able to concentrate on her work, so he apologizes, but says he'd like to look at her like that for the rest of his life. However, what she understood was that he wanted to see her working there until she got old. But correcting her misinterpretation, he says he meant he can't take his eyes off her cuteness, but she denies being chubby. The next day, Shiina, confused about chubbiness means to Kataoka, stops him in the middle of his training to ask him about it. She says she wants to know what he thinks so she can prove she's not chubby. Kataoka doesn't mind explaining, but asks if she wasn't in the middle of work right now. However, she says she just took a break. So they go to another room, and just like his explanation about what chubbiness is. But before that, he was thinking about explaining why he's fascinated by chubby girls. However, he changes his mind and leaves it for another day, because it would take too long. But before really explaining, he says again that chubby girls are the best in the world, and asks her to repeat it, and of course she refuses. After that, he finally starts explaining and says that the definition of chubbiness is inside each one of us. In summary, this is the main idea and starting point. For him, the most essential thing of all is the little belly, and the shape that the folds get when wearing something tight. If that part looks good, the whole body seems more attractive. This is his theory about chubby girls. After observing her little belly, she tries to continue the discussion, but suddenly she is called by a talking bicep who asks what they are talking about. Recognizing the person, Shiina greets him and says they were discussing the meaning of chubbiness. Then, the owner of those biceps reveals herself and says that's quite a specific topic. She introduces herself as Hasegawa and says she is part of the academy staff. Next, Hasegawa asks to join the conversation. She asks if they were talking about how chubby and plump Shiina is, and she quickly denies it. Shiina says that what they're having is more a discussion about what makes a person chubby or not, which has nothing to do with her since she clearly isn't the case. But Kataoka keeps calling her chubby. That makes Kataoka say he's only complimenting her cute trait. Hasegawa quickly realizes that neither of them will give up. Reflecting on how the situation reached this critical point, Hasegawa has a brilliant idea. She suggests Kataoka should touch Shiina's belly to find out for sure. Shiina doesn't understand at first, so Hasegawa explains it's the easiest way to find out. But since Kataoka is a guy, it might not be appropriate. He agrees. However, unlike him, Shiina says it's no problem. The truth only comes when it's felt. This makes no sense, but who cares? Shiina continues and asks him to be gentle, saying it's not like she's chubby. Still confused by this whole situation, Kataoka asks if she's sure, and she just says she is. With that, after a quick mental preparation, Kataoka approaches and, as if trying to pull the Excalibur from the stone, says he doesn't know if he's worthy but asks permission to try. Then he touches. Not only touches but also pinches. When he looks up, he sees a completely embarrassed Shiina who scolds him, saying he didn't get permission to pinch. Because of this unexpected rule violation, she disqualifies him, which leaves Kataoka confused. He tries to explain that he wants to say what he thinks, even if it sounds pretentious on his part, but Shiina, still shy, says that someone disqualified has already lost credibility about what they think. And so ends the day he first felt how soft the Excalibur was. Now, on a normal workday at the office, Kataoka skillfully finished his tasks and said goodbye to the rest of the staff. To them, Kataoka is a good and dedicated guy, besides being very muscular. Before going home, Kataoka decided to go to a nearby supermarket to buy his proteins. Walking to the cashier, he finds a new protein product called Mr. Chicken Salad and decides to take it to try. Since this product was on the counter and not on the shelves, he asks the clerk. But to his surprise, Shiina was there too, and ordered the same thing, which left both surprised and consequently speechless. While Kataoka had just finished work, wearing a tie and showing off his muscles in tight clothes, Shiina was off duty, wearing an old t-shirt and showing her rolls. Only after a few seconds did she realize all of this, which made her embarrassed. Kataoka, completely amazed by such a masterpiece in front of him, starts talking loudly and drawing attention, but is quickly dragged outside by Shiina. There, after calming down a bit more, Kataoka apologizes for the near scandal but doesn't stop commenting that the chicken salad was amazing. Shiina asks if he was at work, and he says yes but was thinking about going to the gym later. He also says he lives nearby, and Shiina says the same, noting that they coincidentally live close to each other. Suddenly coming to a solo conclusion in his crazy mind, Kataoka says now it all makes sense, that Shiina is now using the chuggy style, and in his opinion, she looks very adorable, but Shiina doesn't understand anything. He tries to explain that chuggy comes from the mix of chubby and baggy, and it's a style that reflects everyday nature and, before he can continue his full explanation, Shiina tells him he doesn't need to explain so much. Days later, now at Shiina's house, an unwanted visitor appears. He goes through the living room, the bathroom, and then the bedroom. The unwanted visitor is a mosquito desperately looking for food, and upon entering the room, he finds his food sleeping like a princess, flies without hesitation toward her, and quickly tastes his delicious meal. Not satisfied with staying in just one area, he moves to several others, making a feast of his banquet. Then he faces something never completely unfamiliar and without hesitation enters without fear. Waking up more, Shiina goes to the bathroom and quickly notices that Mr. Mosquito really made good use of the opportunity, as she was all marked up. Because of that, when she went to work, she had to wear long clothes to hide everything. Kataoka notices this and says she wasn't wearing her usual workout clothes, but she can only say certain things happened. Days later, Kataoka finds Shiina adjusting a bench press, goes to her, and says he hadn't seen her there. They greet, and she says she's been there about 30 minutes, but came as a client today. Because he hadn't noticed Shiina before, Kataoka begins to wonder if his chubby sensor was broken, which makes Shiina remind him that it doesn't even exist. She starts stretching, and he asks if she's going to use the bench press and if she wants him to spot her, but Shiina says it's okay. Today she plans to beat her record of 35 kilos and says it only counts if she does it alone. Hearing that, Kataoka can only admire her determination to surpass herself. Already supported and with the bench press ready to start, Shiina says she'll do a set of 3 reps and asks Kataoka to be her witness. He agrees, and so she starts. The first rep is successful, the second too, but when she tries the third, she can't hold anymore. Luckily, Kataoka was there all along and tells her to relax because he's holding the bar for her. That leaves her completely embarrassed for a moment, but in this way, she knows she can count on him. With the bench press back in place, Shiina says that's it for today, and Kataoka says she at least got 2 reps. That's something. However, Shiina isn't happy with the result. In the end, she still needed Kataoka's help, even though she said she would do it alone. He says she doesn't have to worry. Thus, both concluded what they had to do at the gym for the day and left at the same time. They walk a bit, and Kataoka says he lives nearby, which makes Shiina answer that she does too. Since they are going the same way, Shiina invites him to go together. She asks if he went straight to the gym after work, and he says yes, because he will go out drinking with some coworkers tomorrow, so he exercised more than usual today. With that, Kataoka takes the chance to ask if Shiina drinks, but she says she can't because she's only 19 years old. This surprises Kataoka, who might have thought they were the same age. And it's worth remembering that until a few years ago, the age of majority in Japan was 20 years old, which might make most people still consider that the true age of adulthood, even though 18 years old is now adopted. Anyway, Shiina says she's been working at the gym for a year. She started when she was 18. Only then does Kataoka realize Shiina is 3 years younger than him, and says he'll be more attentive now that he knows he's talking to a younger chubby girl, which makes Shiina say it's kind of late for that. After a moment, they reach a corner, and Shiina says she lives just there, and Kataoka says so does he. And so they keep walking together for a while longer, and when they realize it, they were already facing their apartments, one right in front of the other all that time. And with that, they realize they not only live close, but are very close neighbors. Now, on another day, Shiina was suddenly imitating the pose of a sphinx. The girl who was teaching her says she did it right and that she looks very pretty like that. Then Kataoka suddenly appears behind Shiina and asks what she was doing, catching her completely by surprise. She asks him not to come from behind like that, but Kataoka says his chubby detector was on, and it was new to see her in that gym area. She explains she was learning yoga, and took advantage of always seeing other members practicing in the stretching area to try there too, and Kataoka praises her for her willingness to learn new things. Talking to the girl teaching Shiina, he asks if she's a yoga teacher by chance, but she says no. She introduces herself as Mito, and says she's just part of the staff there, and yoga is only her hobby. Kataoka also introduces himself and can't help but comment how flexible Mito is, and she replies it's because she practices every day. Mito says being flexible brings many benefits to the body. It's good for circulation and muscle growth. And besides that, it also helps to defend against surprise attacks, while imagining a completely crazy scenario. While she says you have to be prepared for anything, Shiina listens anxiously, and Kataoka finds it interesting. So Kataoka asks if she could teach him too. Mito agrees, and so they start with the basics. First, they bring their legs together, then Mito asks them to hold their hands firmly behind their backs, and then bend forward while stretching the torso. Doing exactly as instructed, Kataoka says his shoulders have never felt so good. Mito stresses they should try to go as low as possible, but always keeping their glutes firmly on the ground. Kataoka, still surprised by how good it feels, wonders how Shiina is doing. Looking sideways, he sees her completely determined and is amazed by such a sight. And so they move on to the next pose. They do the table pose, warrior pose, boat pose, and finally, they even do the couple yoga pose. Mito, watching all that, thought it was extremely beautiful because there's nothing more beautiful than a muscular guy and a chubby girl, but obviously Shiina quickly denies being chubby. And so they learned a lot about yoga that day. Now, taking advantage of the gym being close to closing, Shiina decides to train back extensions, an exercise that works the lower back, such as the glutes and the muscles located on the back of the thigh, between the hip and the knee. The exercise consists of staying in this position, lowering and raising the torso. It requires quite a bit of strength to do many repetitions, but Shiina was confident today, and so she begins her set of reps. She starts strong and steady in the first repetitions, but by the halfway point she was already feeling tired. After doing a bit more, she could barely return with a straight torso. Eventually, exhaustion caught up to her, and she stayed there resting for a while. With that, she decides that was enough for today. In this way, she realizes this is a great exercise for her back. And with that, let's stop here. I found this manga only up to this part. If you liked it and want more parts of this work or more recaps in general, leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. I'd really like to know what you thought in the comments, and see you in the next video.